James Williams grew up in Brownsville, New York, as he honed his skills on the playground. He made a name for himself in the rising streetball scene with a slick handle, quick twitch, and elite bounce. He held his own against guys like World B. Free and Earl Manigault, so it was clear that he had a chance to go pro. He chose to play his college ball at Austin Peay, and he became a local celebrity, all while putting his name firmly on draft boards. But a discrepancy involving his SAT scores left his future uncertain, so instead of waiting for an NCAA decision, he chose to sign with the St. Louis Spirits. But this was the beginning of the end of his career. As someone who had a quick temper and was already using drugs, being around other negative influences on the team led him to quickly fall out of favor with the organization, and his ABA career was over after one season. He bounced around several minor leagues after this, but he would never get another major opportunity again. He continued to play street ball, but he also continued to get into legal trouble. Fly Williams was certainly a character during his time, and I hope to do his story justice. Welcome to PZ Hoops, and this is another episode of ABA Tales. James Williams was born on February 18, 1953 in Brooklyn, more specifically the Brownsville neighborhood. With an absent father and a mother who worked long hours to care for him and his 5 siblings, James was outside a lot. When he wasn't getting in trouble, he was on the street ball courts, as it seemed like basketball was one of the only ways out of his community, as he often had to bring a broom to sweep the broken glass and use syringes off the court before he could play. James was well over 6 feet as a 13-year-old, so he dominated on the playgrounds. The street ball scene was the counterculture of the early 70s. As nobody called fouls, losers would sit, and dunking was encouraged. James built his reputation on the streets with his fancy dribbling, nifty fakes, and hilarious trash talk. There's still a debate on how he earned the nickname Fly, as it might have come from his style of dress, his overall aura, or simply due to an inspiration from legendary soul singer Curtis Superfly Mayfield. His name recognition led to graffiti messages that said Fly showing up on random buildings throughout the city. And of course, you couldn't be stamped in the streetball scene unless you showed out at the Rucker. And Fly displayed his talents against guys like Earl the Goat Manigault, World B. Free, and Julius Erving. By the time he was a freshman at Madison High, he was already 6'5" and dominating the competition. But he was also committing crimes outside of school, helping to move stolen cigarette trucks in the dead of night. Fly began to get too wrapped up in his extracurriculars to care about school, as he frequently skipped class. Rodney Parker was a talent scout, searching for talented kids that were misguided, and Fly was the perfect candidate to attend Glen Springs Academy, a prep school in Lakemont. He introduced a high-octane, street-savvy style of play that the local newspapers called Globetrotterish. After averaging 34 points and 19 rebounds, he was an all-state selection and an All-American, but he was largely ignored by college recruiters, except for one. Leonard Hamilton was an assistant coach at the tiny Austin Peay State University in Tennessee, and Fly was now a governor. In the summer, Fly's story would reach the national news, as a Sports Illustrated journalist named Rick Tolander went to the Brownsville projects to document the streetball scene. Fly was the main attraction that day, and he became a character in the book Heaven is a Playground, a novel that Barack Obama would call the best basketball book he ever read. Once he stepped foot on campus, Fly was an attraction at the gate, as fans would wait for hours to get tickets to his games. And he even wrote a message in the clouds that said Fly. He also inspired possibly the funniest crowd chant in basketball history. The fly is open, let's go P. After a 3-2 start, the Governors went on a 12-game winning streak. Their game plan was to outscore their opponents, as they had the 4th best offense, but the 199th ranked defense. They won their conference games though, so a 22-7 record was enough for their first tournament appearance as a Division I school. Fly's shot-happy style wasn't always the most popular with his teammates and coaches, but he was lighting everyone up, scoring 51 on Tennessee Tech and Georgia Southern. Fly finished as the top scorer in the nation, averaging 29 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 assists. The Governors faced Jacksonville in the first round, as Fly dropped 26 points and 5 rebounds, actually hitting the game-winning shot. He put up 26 points and 6 rebounds on Kentucky, but Jim Andrews and Kevin Greavy were too much to handle, and the Wildcats won by 6 in overtime. He had 22 in the consolation game against Marquette, but that was a loss as well. Fly's scoring average this year was the highest freshman mark in NCAA history until Chris Jackson or Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf averaged 30 in 1988. Fly was just a little more conservative as a sophomore, only shooting 24 times a game compared to 28 last year. In addition to his scoring, he was hitting the glass, recording 2 20-rebound games against Tennessee Tech and Southern Miss. Despite the notion that he was a ball hog, he was actually top 10 in the conference for assists. The team had a pretty rough start to the season though, winning just 6 of their first 13 games, but then they picked it up, winning 6 straight. And this was even better since 5 of these wins were in the conference. They finished the year 17-9, but their 10-4 record in the OVC helped them secure another tournament berth. Fly won the Conference Player of the Year, averaging 28 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 assists. The Governors faced an uphill battle against Notre Dame in the first round, and it seemed like Fly was the only one of his team that actually came to play, as apart from his 36 points, 5 assists, and 2 steals, the next highest scorer had 7 points. Adrian Dantley, John Shoemate, and Gary Brokaw all dropped 20 as the Irish beat the Governors by 42 points. Due to the increased attendance of the basketball games, Austin Peay made plans to build a bigger arena, thanks in no small part to the star power of Fly. But his college career would end unceremoniously, as after the OVC conducted an investigation into the entrance requirements of its schools, they determined that they were accepting ACT scores, not the required SAT scores. Due to this quote-unquote misinterpretation of the rule, Fly was now declared ineligible. Instead of waiting on the NCAA to make a decision, Fly chose to pursue professional opportunities. He had a chance to apply for the NBA hardship draft, but he trusted a shady lawyer and he screwed up that opportunity. It also didn't help that he had a reputation as a head case, someone who was selfish and moody, but his basketball talent was too great to ignore, so he was chosen second overall by the Denver Nuggets in the 1974 ABA draft. There were several offers to buy his $250,000 contract after the draft, but his rights were eventually sold to the Spirits, and Fly's pro career had now begun. This Spirits team might go down as one of the most interesting in basketball history, due to the number of eccentric personalities. Fly actually dropped 22 points and 6 rebounds in his first career game, followed by 24 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists in the next one. But after this, it was a tale of inconsistency for him, as he opted for the fancy plays more often than Coach McKinnon preferred. He had a nice 4-game stretch to the end of 1974, ending that run with his best career game against the Nets, with 29 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks on 14 of 17 shooting. He had 7 20-point games this year, but his play just wasn't up to the standards everyone hoped they would be. His temper was one reason, as he was quick to go off, even getting in a fight during a pregame layup drill. The other reason, and perhaps the most logical reason, was because he and Marvin Barnes partied and snorted cocaine almost every night. Even with this, Marvin still won the Rookie of the Year, leading the Spirits somewhat to a 32-52 record, just enough for the playoffs. In his disappointing rookie season, Fly averaged 9 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists. He only played 8 minutes in the entire postseason, scoring just once as the Spirits lost to Kentucky in the division final. It seemed like Fly had worn out his welcome in St. Louis already, as once they hired Rod Thorne, the no-nonsense coach cut him right before the 1975 season. Fly never really left the city though, traveling back and forth from New York to sell coke to his teammates. As he later said, "Sometimes Marvin used to put me on the plane, because they needed their candy. I was their drug guy. I knew the dealers in every city. They put their orders through me." Even after not playing for an entire year, Fly was still drafted in the 9th round by the Sixers in 1976. However, they never signed him to a player contract. After failing to make the Buffalo Braves as well, he took his talents to the Eastern Basketball Association. He won a championship in his first year with the Allentown Jets, but off the court, he was strapped for cash. His basketball journey brought him to places such as Israel and Alaska. In 1978, as a member of the Jersey Shore Bullets, he might have been at his lowest point, offering to wrestle a 9-foot bear at halftime for $250. Thankfully for Fly, the bear was sedated, muzzled, and declawed, but his temper got the best of him again, as in 1980, he punched a referee, essentially ending his career. Now without professional basketball, he went back to the streetball court, and he scored 100 points in the game in 1978, as this record wouldn't be broken until 2010, when Corey Fisher scored 105 at Dykeman. Fly also resumed his criminal activities, as he almost died in 1987, after being blasted by a shotgun after a drug deal went wrong. The pellets destroyed one of his kidneys and severely diminished his lung capacity. But after this long recovery, he served 2 stints in Attica for attempted robbery and drug possession. By 2010, Fly received a bit of redemption after being hired to be a motivational speaker, urging kids not to make the same mistakes he did. Austin Peay finally retired his number in 2009, and he made a cameo appearance in LeBron's first Nike commercial. He was honored by the Brooklyn Nets for his charity work, and even indirectly featured on the cover of Sports Illustrated. But it seemed like even as Fly was well into his 60s, he couldn't leave his old life behind. In May 2017, officers broke down his door at 6 a.m., finding a 9mm pistol and 32 vials of heroin. He was arrested for being the alleged leader of a $20 million heroin distribution ring. The bust, aptly named Operation Flying High, determined that Fly was dealing drugs out of Pringle cans with false bottoms. He pled guilty and was sentenced to 10 years, but he was paroled in 2023 and is now back in Brooklyn living with his daughter. Fly Williams had everything going for him, as he had the skill, the personality, and the marketability to be a star in the NBA. But even from a young age, he wasn't given the necessary guidance to keep a cool head. The game was there, but the maturity wasn't. He was a legend at Austin Peay, but once his professional career began, things started to get out of control. Being on a team like the Spirits, where the best player was a guy like Marvin Barnes, only encouraged the negative behaviors that hindered his progress. Now with the reality of a failed basketball career, Fly continued to live by the seat of his pants, as it seemed like he couldn't shake his addiction. Even into his later years, it looked like he hadn't learned his lesson. But now that he's free, he still has the opportunity to do great things and inspire so many people. Thank you guys. I appreciate y'all for the support. I wanted to do his story for a long time because this is like the poster story of keeping yourself locked in, keeping yourself grounded, because basketball is not always just about physicality. Obviously, if you have the physical gifts, you have a chance, but it's a mental thing too. Like, it's a full commitment, just being locked into your craft, like locking out all the negative influences. But it seemed like he was just from a really tough environment. But you know, of course, he didn't really have too many role models. He was outside as a young kid, not really anybody to tell him that he can't do something. But when I saw him play, like the limited footage, he definitely could have been nice. Like 6'6" guard, really athletic, could shoot the ball a little bit. He could score that ball, man. Like, he was a very good player. Shout out to Fly. I mean, I saw some recent interviews of him. He's out free, you know, living his life. I hope he continues to be on the straight and narrow. Like I said, you know, of course, you did some illegal stuff, but who am I to judge people? As long as you find a way to correct your mistakes and live a better life, as long as you don't keep going on that same path, I'm going to keep being optimistic, you know. So shout out to Fly. Hopefully he's doing great. I just wanted to tell the story because this was a unique tale of the ABA. This is just why the ABA was so great, because there's so many unique stories, so many unique personalities that even though they weren't superstars, I can still do a video like this on them. I appreciate y'all for the support. Leave a like if you enjoyed. That subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Turn on my post notification if you haven't already. Thanks. Please be safe. Stay on the grind. I'm out. Peace.